Welcome to another episode of Top Team. Today, Ulrike and I are going to discuss the API model, authority, presence, and impact. Let's get to it. Welcome to today's episode. Ulrike and I were pretty much all done for today. We had already recorded a session and we just started to talk about API, the model developed by Professor Peter Hawkins about authority, presence, and impact. It's supposed to help professionals build trust and influence through the development of those three core leadership qualities. We turned the video right back on and just recorded what happened. We believe that there is some value in it, so here you go. But sorry about the slightly abrupt start of the recording. I hope you enjoy. Take care. Bye-bye. Yes, so API, for me, it actually has something to do with how do you bring across your expertise, right? And yes, we have it as coaches. We go into a company and, we go in there with a certain sense of people viewing or sensing our authority, our presence, and then our impact. But isn't it the same, not only for coaches, but of anybody, right? And anybody, any member of a team brings to the table their expertise and who they are and what they can accomplish, their contribution. That's actually the word I'm looking for. So what is the expectation from all the people around them, which is essentially authority? What is the expectation of what's going to come? How truly present are they during the engagement? How can they actually sense the playing field, interact with it, deliver the expertise, and so on? And then the impact as well. How much does every person now leave this impact? I would even say even further, even a team can have authority and presence and impact. How does it look when it approaches as a whole, as this overarching thing, not just the individual contributors, but as a team? How does it approach its stakeholders, its customers, its other teams, or the board, and so on? What do they bring in terms of authority and presence and impact? The organization too. I mean, we can see it at every level of the system. How does a organization show itself and bring its expertise, its brand, its people, it's a whole thing. How does it bring that across? So I think it's a very useful model, not just from I'm a freelancer, I'm going out there, I better make sure that I project a certain way or I interact a certain way. So what's your take on that?
Well, I just thought I learned it as a possible way of seeing my different pages I offer to somebody else. So I have authority, I have presence, and I have impact. But like you just said, is everyone has him or herself in every situation of your life, really. And I was just thinking that there are different things. For example, you might be a specialist in a certain way, expertise one, for example, and then you have high presence in a meeting where this kind of expertise is being asked for. And what you say, because of your expertise, has a certain impact. in this very meeting. But what if you are in a different meeting and your expertise is not subject number one? It's somewhere behind at the moment because another expertise, number two, is being asked for. What does that mean for your authority, your presence, your impact? If you have a certain expertise and I have a different one, and we are in one meeting, how does authority, presence, and impact of you and of me at the same time intermingles? What is important? Because if it's your expertise, which is important today, and I jump in with my expertise, then it's not good for the outcome of the meeting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then my authority shouldn't be to throw my expertise into your meeting, but perhaps my authority is then to be more the listening part, to know how to listen. So to be really aware what kind of authority in this meeting is good for the meeting, for the outcome of the meeting. What should I show? What should I bring? What is the impact of me not saying anything, just listening all the time or talking all the time? And it might be good and it might be bad in certain situations. And I think this triangle is knowing at any time what the right mixture of the three is for me in this very moment, to be very aware what is good for the situation, what is good for the room, for the purpose, for the stakeholder, for you, for me, for whatever. So it's not me, I have this triangle, but the way of each triangle thing is different depending on the situation. So that was my thought when I listened to you. But the question is, am I very Chinese right now, or how do you go with that?
I I really think that there's definitely context plays into that, right? And maybe it was a little bit limiting when I used the word expertise, because the normal view of expertise is the actual skill set, capabilities, and stuff like that. I see it maybe a little bit broader in my book in terms of, what everybody can bring to the table all the time.
Yeah, that's the expertise. Yeah.
Understanding, empathy, analytical skills, support, brainstorming, creativity, and so on. It's not just you're a computer programmer and you bring your computer programming to the table. But I think that everybody, when they're truly present as professionals, they can add value in their way, even if their, let's say, a professional skill set is not their specific capability, like computer programming, is not at the center of that meeting. It's like, the question is, how can I be present? Right.
Yeah.
I also think that the triangle is interesting because some people, they focus too much on one, and I think that yes, it always shifts. Like those three are like the bars on a music player and so on, right? I mean, they go up and down. But I think that some folks are so heavily invested, let's say, on building their authority, of being the industry-wide known person with a million degrees and a million certifications and things like that, right? They have a lot of authority, and yet maybe when they're actually in the room, they're not as present as you would expect them to be, and maybe they actually leave with very little impact. Okay, so I think that as we thrive, or as we maybe bring this to the attention of our clients, individuals and teams alike, to like find this balance. It's not enough to do one over the other, but it's kind of like the way that you bring yourself and your expertise in a wider sense to the table is through authority before you enter the room, presence as you are in the room, and impact what remains of you after you leave the room, right? And so yes, it is context dependent, but I think that as professionals, there's so much that overarches context and that we can use to be present and add impact and things like that, whoever has center stage at that very moment. That's
I'm
my
just
view.
wondering,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just wondering what is what happens if people are normally not aware that it would be good to have all three of them. And I'm just wondering what would happen if you come across a person who has a lot of authority, a lot of presence, but what he or she says has no impact at all because it's just not being asked for in the meeting. It's not necessary. It's this permanent talker who talks because somebody needs to talk. And the question is how to stop that. And we had that in our meeting before, that psychological safetiness. Someone has to stop this person because the impact is not requested. It's a different scenario. It's a different planet. You know what I mean? So it's all connected, and I'm just wondering what happens if I talk and I have this, what I say has no impact at all because it doesn't really matter, or I have a lot of impact but not enough presence, so I won't put things on the table, or I have impact and presence, yes, but not the authority. So I'm jumping up and down, but nobody really listens to me because I have not enough authority for whatever reason. So,
Yeah, and
and
even
if I think
worse.
about my customers, this is the case. There's always somebody with this imbalance of those three.
Mhm. And even worse, I mean, if you lack the authority, you might not even be in the room, right? You might not even
Yeah.
get invited into a room. So
Oh, yeah.
I think that it's just three very interesting lenses on
Yeah.
how to look at you know the potential of value contribution at any one moment, right? It's like when I look for myself and I do some self reflection, right? How can I build this authority that I get a place at that table, and I get taken seriously even before I enter the room. The next step would be like, you know, how present was I? How was my energy perceived in that room? How was my speech? How was my nonverbal? How was just my thought? And what I could contribute in the moment. And then also again, like, you know, so all this work that I just did, like later looking back, like did that even change something? Was I able to leave
Yeah.
my footprints in the sand, let's say, right, or in the snow? Like, was there an actual impact of me being there? So from a self-reflection standpoint, it's very rich, and so then after you reflected on it, then you can kind of take action that hopefully next time you're in a similar situation or context, let's say, right? How am I going to make it stronger? My authority, my presence, and my impact. How can I reinforce it? And I think that maybe it's going to point you towards certain ways of being and skill sets, soft or hard skills that allow you to build up on that, and therefore over time really have a better contribution or a more impactful contribution.
Actually a good growing tool because if you see and you reflect on it and you find there's a kind of an imbalance, then you could say, okay, where was my authority? Yeah, even did I feel well? And why didn't I feel good at this point of time? What was missing? Is my impact enough? Is my presence enough? Is my authority enough? And enough doesn't mean it needs to be big and huge. Balanced enough? Is it that everyone in the room, including me, had good feeling about it, that it gave more value to the process or not? And if not, why was this? What was in imbalance? For example, I'm just group, and the boss of them is seen as the boss. There's too much authority in the room. And the question is, why is this the case? Because it's not him. He's not doing quite a lot of stuff, but the people make him this authority. So from their perspective, what they think, what they expect, authority there, without thinking, oh, actually, there are a few other things we need to show, and because of this, they are blocked. Mm-hmm. And if I would make them aware of this triangle and say, well, everyone has a triangle, and where is they intermingle and where do they hinder, and make them aware that at this meeting, it's not their boss, it's a team member. And we should give the authority less importance due to this, and more important to the presence and more importance to the impact, and give the boss the chance to show that yes, he has the authority, but it's not important in this meeting, not this to full extent. And the reason is the former boss was very much putting his authority first. So the team is used to this. And now with this new person on board, the triangle, the old one, doesn't fit anymore. And I just wonder whether this would give them more insight, what's happening there, very easily, without blaming, shaming, whatever, just saying, well, this is it. And what do you think happens? Because it's so obvious.
Yeah, because we talked before about it from an individual's perspective, right? But imagine that it is three dimensions of awareness as a team.
Yeah.
And how does everybody fit into those three things within the team? Right. And then you can even ask, like, who do you delegate authority to now? And who do who should step up to the presence plate today?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just a different set of awareness characteristics, I think, and a different language that you can put to it, right? Because authority, and I think I pick it up a little bit on what you were saying, it's about power as well, and control. And so, that can be mitigated a little bit, maybe if it becomes a topic of discussion or just a topic of awareness. Because I, as a coach as well, I believe that so many things take care of themselves once they are brought to attention. Once
they're in the open.
They're in the open, and you have some basic awareness of it. It's like, oh, were we doing this? Was this really happening? And then it just adjusts. It's these things that are hold firm and invisible, that very often become the stumbling blocks, right? So
thinking about the situation, if there is authority in the room where the boss is not the boss, so hierarchically and in the org chart it's the boss, but the real boss in the group is someone else. And this is also this authority, and putting it, like you just said, into the open, make them aware that this is happening. And if they are okay with it and it's working fine, that's fine. But they should be aware. And if they expect this authority in the background to do the decisions, but actually he hasn't got the power to do so, then you have the conflict on the table. Then to find out, why could it be good that he has this power and has the hidden authority, and how to put this in the open, and then to work with it so that it doesn't destroy clarity and perhaps gives more creativity.
Yeah, that is what really excites me about team coaching. It's because and coaching in general, actually, you are having discussions because the coach is there that you wouldn't have otherwise. Right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it really is not more complicated than that. You talk about things, you put things on the table, and so on. And actually, I think very often the coach is required because just like people have their own blind spots, right? Teams have their own blind spots.
And the coach asks a lot of questions and make them aware. Yeah.
Aware, without telling them what to do or whatever. Just holding up that mirror is very, very impactful very often. So
That's right.
also for lasting change, because once you see something, it's very difficult to unsee it.
Yeah, indeed.
Good. Perfect. Wow.
Okay.
Awesome. Very interesting.
So now API is not only good for, well, your own self, but also for groups. It might be worthwhile to make people aware of this so they can use it to full extent in the future for their well-being and greater value to whatever they do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good one to have at the ready in the right situation. I really do think it opens up different lenses through which we can look our contribution and the way that we present it as individuals, as who is a team member, but also as a team as a whole, impacting the dynamic. Perfect.
Yep.